Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dating Alchemy with me, your host, Jen Youngquist. In case you're new to my world, I'm a spiritual healer and energy expert. I used to call myself a spiritual dating coach, but now I'm kind of realizing that what I do is more than coaching. I partner with spirit. So I set up the meeting with my clients in spirit. I hold that space for the meeting so that it's a safe place for you and for all that is going to transpire in that container. So I kind of just allow spirit to do the talking. I allow spirit to lead the session to, whatever is in your highest and greatest good. I translate, I transfer energy, and I help my clients integrate all that is standing in the way of what they want in life. So I started this podcast so that I can talk more in depth about spiritual topics related to dating and relationships. My goal is to get you to think about your life and relationships in an entirely new way, a more empowering way. And just as a heads up, I like to swear. I make no apologies for it, and I'm not going to stop. So if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, this may not be the place for you. Just be mindful of who's around when you press play. Now, on with the episode. This is episode 9, the 5 major relationship types. And which one do you find yourself in the most? So, I'm going to talk about the different kinds of romantic relationship patterns that I see, and more than likely, you end up getting caught in one of these a lot. So, I'm going to talk about why that is and what you can do to get yourself out of that cycle and into a more healthier dynamic. So, the 5 categories that I'm going to talk about today are the issues-based relationship, the journey mate, the karmic or soulmate relationship, the conscious or healthy relationship, and the twin flame. I'm going to talk about them from the most common to the least common. So I'm going to start with the issues-based relationship. I didn't coin the term. It came from another coach, Christine Hassler. But I thought the term really encompassed what this kind of relationship is all about. So if you haven't checked out Christine Hassler yet, she is also a relationship coach, and her podcast is fantastic. Highly recommend it. So, as it says, this is all about issues. This kind of relationship is where the attraction is like finding your matching puzzle piece, except it's the trauma pieces that are fitting, unfortunately. So, for example, let's take my story. I was finding nothing but emotionally unavailable type of people. So these are the people that, they didn't want to be alone. They wanted a relationship, but they didn't really want to go deep with it. These are the people that don't really want to fully commit. Sometimes they end up just being friends with benefits kind of thing. Sometimes they end up being um, a long-term boyfriend who just will never commit to marriage. I had 2 of them that went all the way to engagement, but when I tried to, schedule and put together a wedding, everything fell apart. So I kept attracting these types because deep down, I was actually afraid of intimacy. Um, I was afraid of the intimacy that I was saying that I wanted. And I would find these guys who would give me just enough to where I fell in love, with that possibility. Like they made me think that there was a possibility of this actually going somewhere. I thought I just had to work hard to earn the rest of that love, right? So the more emotionally unavailable, the stronger the attraction it was, unfortunately. They would give me just enough, but were never going to give me all of it. And this kind of relationship usually reaches a plateau where it stops growing. And what starts to grow instead is resentment and discontent. And it ends usually when one finally realizes it's not going anywhere or it's going to go in a direction that the other person doesn't want it to go. But that can take years. And in my case, it was usually 2 to 4 years, which is a long time to lie to yourself, if I'm being completely honest. An issues-based relationship lasts longer than it should because both partners are disempowered and unaware. It's called issues-based because the attraction to each other is matching issues, which present in the relationship and cause problems, problems which never really seem to get solved, no matter how much you discuss them. And when you've had a relationship like this, it's really in your best interest to try to understand the attraction, to understand that energetic pattern, what was happening there, and really understand your role in it. So the only way that you can ensure that you don't end up in a lot of these kind of relationships is after you've had one, to take that time to process it. Don't just jump right into the next relationship. Really sit down and try to figure out what's going on. Why were you attracted to this person? What was the puzzle piece that was presenting? What were the issues that you always argued with this person about? Um, that is what is going to get you to the next level. Okay, so it's this relationship is here to show you something, to teach you something. It acts as a mirror. Um, it's not quite as intense as the next couple of types of relationships I'm going to talk about, but nonetheless, they're hard to leave. And that is because everyone in the relationship is really disempowered and they don't realize it. And so there's a lot of, it might be a little codependency. There might be a bit of, well, I don't want to be alone, but, being with this person's better than not having anybody kind of energy. Instead of having the energy of, this isn't what I want. I'm not going to stand for this. I'm going to leave this and keep looking for what it is that I want. That is a much more empowered kind of energy that, I'm going to be honest, it took me a really, really long time to step into, longer than it should have. But there's no point in beating yourself up over it. Just once you just do the work and the rest will follow. All right. The next kind is journey mate relationship. And this term was also coined by Christine Hessler. And the journey mate relationship is a type of issues-based relationship. The difference to me is this one is going to seem perfect, except for one major thing. Okay? So it's just like if it wasn't for this major thing, then it would be just the most beautiful relationship, right? And so this major thing can be something like he's not fully divorced, or there's an addiction that you don't know about that maybe is worse than you know, or maybe he just lives really far away. So there's something there that's keeping distance in the relationship, that's keeping it from being what you want it to be. But because you're still disempowered, you're allowing it and you're thinking that, well, things might change. Or if he loves me enough, he'll change, kind of thing. And the thing about this type of relationship is it's intense and it often ends abruptly, like didn't see it coming, kind of abrupt, and you're just left holding the bag like, what the fuck just happened? Which means it's harder to move on from because you were blindsided, right? In this kind of relationship, again, it's here to show you something. It's here to help you break old personality patterns, maybe old emotional addictions, these kind of things that have kept you in a holding pattern and at lower frequencies. So this kind of relationship is really here to help you to really get to that next energetic level. And I would say another difference is this kind of relationship is usually like a contract of sorts. Could be like karmic from the past life, as I'll talk about in the next type of relationship, or maybe it's just a contract your higher self made with another soul to come in and have help you to have a certain experience, or maybe to help you get through a tough time. Um, there's lots of different reasons that you could make a contract with someone to come in. But usually it is they're going to come here, it's going to be intense, it's going to be short-lived. They're going to show you something and then they're going to disappear. So usually, that's this other person is really acting as a mirror to show us some aspect of ourselves that we can't see or wouldn't be able to see without them. And it's something that we need to let go of and transform in order to grow as a soul or as a human. And once this realization happens, then that the contract is fulfilled. The relationship has fulfilled its purpose and it will end. Um, and because they end abruptly or under random circumstances, feelings can linger. You may feel like that was, the one that got away, or if only XYZ, it would have been perfect. Or if only they would have loved me enough, they would have changed. So notice what's going on in your brain after a relationship like this. That is going to point you in the direction of why this relationship was here. Okay? If you can't get over it and you keep thinking about this person and you feel like you want to reach out or, apologize or what did I do wrong? Like, notice what's going on there. There's something for you here. All right. So, and if that happens, you may need help in fully gaining awareness of, what this pattern is. And you might need help integrating this thing that you were supposed to see. So if you're still pining for this person, that's a clue. Likely you may be avoiding the lesson or you're not really um just you didn't get it. Like it happened. It showed you something, but you haven't fully processed it. So I would suggest that you find a coach who can help you to fully see and integrate that. And then once you do, you're going to be instantly free of it. I've had one of these, and once I came to that realization of like, oh, ew, oh, I was done with it. And it was like a light switch flipped. Boop, oh, oop, okay, yeah, I see what this was all about. I wanted nothing to do with that relationship afterwards. So, if again, if you're still like pining for this person, get some help in figuring out what was happening, and you won't be pining for them anymore, I guarantee it. All right. Next one is karmic or soulmate, and this is very, very similar to the journey mate. Um, I think this one might be a little bit more abusive. A karmic or soulmate relationship tends to be one where um, there is a lot of abuse. There's a lot of there's codependency, um, more susceptible to trauma bonding. These are really tough relationships. And some people believe that they're rooted in past lives. Karmic relationships are intense, they're passionate, but they're also unhealthy and damaging usually. They're, you might have a sense of feeling like you can't leave it, feeling like you shouldn't be there, but you can't leave it at the same time. And there's usually a lot of guilt or shame involved in it as well. So here are some signs that you are in a karmic relationship. You feel an immediate connection to your partner, but it's not a deeply intimate kind of connection. It's different. It's really hard to explain what I mean by that. But if you've ever had a deep connection with someone that's based on healthy things, it's way different than a connection you have with someone that's built on trauma. Okay? Um, you might notice unresolved challenges from past relationships. Like it's going to have a flavor of lots of other things that have happened in your past. So maybe you um, have allowed yourself to be abused. Then this relationship is going to echo that. You might have a feeling of addiction to your partner. There's probably going to be frequent arguing, and there's never any resolution to the arguments. Your partner is really not interested in listening to you or changing for you. And you feel more a sense of obligation rather than a genuine connection in this relationship, which makes it harder to leave because there's that shame, there's that guilt. Some other characteristics of a karmic relationship is unbalanced power dynamics, which means one person's going to have more power in the relationship than the other. It's codependency, possessiveness, control, and like I said, difficulty ending the relationship for good. And this is usually on both sides. It's not just on one side of that equation. I mean, you have something like this, there's also potential benefits, right? So this is going to be a huge growth opportunity. Um, you might also be resolving karmic debts or patterns from past lives in this relationship. And you're going to learn some important life lessons. Like you're not going to get out of this one without learning some things. And then healing from a relationship like this, of course, it's going to take becoming aware um, of your own trauma and patterns and recognizing the unhealthy aspects of that relationship and why you were accepting those things. Um, you'll have to understand that codependent dynamic. You know, why did you feel like you couldn't leave or you couldn't be without this person, yet you really didn't want to be with them or you knew you shouldn't be with them? Um, and also, this kind of relationship is it's really going to teach you something about self-love and self-acceptance, right? That's the only way that you can get past that shame and guilt in a relationship like this is a lot of self-love and self-acceptance. So, if that is something that you know you need to work on, um, you're going to need it for any kind of relationship, but it's most important in a relationship like this, where there's, like I said, a lot of shame and guilt. Um, so these first three types of relationships are obviously not the healthiest, and these are not your happily ever after kind of relationships. These relationships were never meant to last. Okay, they were never meant to last. It's only there to help you to become a better version of yourself, to heal things that need healing, to shed light on things that need to see the light of day. And if you have a lot of that kind of stuff, unfortunately, you're going to have to go through a bunch of relationships like this. But honestly, I wish I'd have known this back in the day. Like, there's the easy way and there's the hard way to do it. This is the hard way to go through these kinds of relationships, and having these relationships serve as the method for you to do your healing work. Like, that's fucking painful. And it wastes a lot of time. The easiest way, the fastest way, the least painful way to move through this stuff without having to do it inside of a relationship is to do the shadow work, to work with someone that can serve as your mirror to doing this work, to show you what areas you need to look at and to transform so that you can get to this next kind of relationship, which is a conscious and healthy relationship. All right. So if you're tired of going through a type of issues-based relationship, then it might be in your best interest to find someone that you can work with to help you to do this work, someone that can serve as your mirror without you having to be in a relationship. Right? It's going to save you a boatload of heartache. It's going to save you a lot of time. Could possibly even save you a lot of money if you end up moving in with these people like I did, right? I was always having to move back out, lost money on selling my house, always had to pay another deposit, buy new furniture. Like, I'm telling you, do the work with a coach or therapist or somebody that can serve as the mirror for you, and you're going to save it a lot in the long run, especially time. And time is the only commodity that cannot be replaced. I wish I would have done that earlier. I wouldn't have been getting married at 43 instead. I might have gotten married, a lot earlier, or found that relationship and been a lot happier. So I had to go through 20 years of turmoil in order to finally get to that point. Whereas if I could have found someone that could have helped me with this work, probably wouldn't have had to go through so much struggle. Just saying. All right, so conscious and healthy relationship. This is our fourth type. And this is where you want to be. This is where, kind of relationship where the attraction here is between two people who've done a lot of work on themselves. And they're aware of their own stuff, and they're aware of exactly what they want, what they don't want. They're not going to compromise for that, not even for attraction. Like, these are the people that are empowered, they know what they want, and they're not going to settle for anything less. These are the people that recognize red flags and are capable of putting themselves first and moving on when they see one. Right? They don't feel the need to wait around or hope that the other person will change. They're not waiting for anyone. And the attraction here may not be immediate or intense, but it is present. Okay, this relationship, you want to think of it more like a slow burn, where two people are going to actually take the time to get to know each other and choose each other rather than letting their trauma choose for them. Okay, so, you know, Attraction is a funny thing. So attraction is energetic. It's completely energetic. And I would always be suspicious of any relationship or any time I met someone and there was an intense attraction, especially when you're not really sure why, because that could be an indicator that you're leading with your trauma instead of from your power. So I don't know. It hasn't been my experience where a conscious, healthy relationship starts out with intense attraction. I would say this is the kind where you're like, there's an attraction, and there's also an open door of, I want to see where this goes. I want to find out more about this person. And then from there, you choose it, you build that love, you build that attraction with the other person. Now, it's not to say that this kind of relationship won't have issues. Relationships will always have issues. But in this kind of relationship, the partners are able to they're able to be vulnerable with each other and to ask for what they need. They're willing to listen to each other, and they, like I said, they're actively choosing each other every day. In a relationship like that, 1 + 1 = 3. The resulting energy around a relationship like this is larger than the sum of the individual parts, right? Each person is giving more than 100%. All right. This is because there's growth by both partners. This person wants to fully support you. Like, this is the person you don't have to ask to take the garbage out, right? They see something that needs to be done and they just do it. You know, this kind of person is always trying to look for ways to make your life easier, to support you, to love you, to show you that. You don't have to ask for those things. And that's because both partners have done the work to remove these barriers to connection, right? Every single one of us has the same capacity to love. We just all have different things blocking us from being able to receive and give that love. Okay, so it's like having a wall around us. People that have the kind of relationship that is conscious and healthy have started removing bricks to that connection and that love, right? They're able to put more of their energy through the wall and connect with the other person rather than hiding behind the wall, hoping that someone will finally figure out a way to get over the wall, right? No, you have to dismantle the wall, and you want to find someone who has done as much dismantling of their wall as you. And that is when um, some real magic can happen. And this is where what we strive for, right? But it can only happen if you've done the kind of work I was talking about, where you've become aware of a lot of your barriers to love. You've shown that light on, you're aware of it. You've done a fair amount of that transformation. And the last kind is twin flame. So this is the rarest form, or rarest type of relationship. And I think this is what people usually think of when they think of a conscious and healthy relationship. So, what is a twin flame relationship? It's a form of a soulmate relationship, but it's more healthy. Like, you can have an unhealthy twin flame dynamic for sure, especially if both partners have not done their work, then that's going to fall into more of that karmic um, soulmate kind of relationship. So, a twin flame relationship, to me, the difference is both parties are empowered and they have done their work. So, what does twin flame mean exactly? And how's it different from soulmate? So, I don't know if you're familiar with the book, The Kybalion. It is a book of spiritual principles. I think there are 7 in there. And this comes from a lot of ancient wisdom. No one really knows who wrote the book and where it all came from. Um, I have talked about it before, but the first spiritual law in there is the all is all. And you can think of the all as God, as source, as the creator, whatever your term for that is, everything in the universe comes from the all. Everything, which means every soul comes from the all, was a part of the all. So if you want to think of it as a creation event, when creating human type souls, right? It's kind of like a shedding of parts of the all. And each piece that came off was able to split into a couple different parts. So you have like an over soul, I guess, and then a couple individual soul pieces of that. So your twin flame is essentially the other half of that larger soul that split off. It's not your other half. You are 2 separate souls, but you came from the same energetic piece, if that makes sense. And the reason this kind of relationship is pretty rare is because each soul can have their own intention for incarnating. All right. Um, for example, say I wanted to come down here to this planet, have a certain experience, do some things, and maybe my other half didn't want to participate in that or wanted to have a different kind of experience, or maybe didn't want to incarnate at all. So your other half may not even be on the planet, which is what I understand is going on for me. So I won't be having a twin flame kind of experience in this life, which as a human makes me sad, but on the other side of that, I came here to do something which that piece would have maybe interfered with or didn't want to participate in. I don't know. I won't know until I cross over. Um, but some people are able to find that other half if they've incarnated at the same time, and it's all great. They probably set that intention before they came down here to Earth. But I don't think it's a very um, common experience for most people. So how do you know if you've found your twin flame? Well, there's this feeling that you've known them a long time and that once you do, like you can't live without them. And not in the codependent kind of way, like I know they're bad for me, but I can't be alone or I can't be without them. It's more like this is the person that really kind of completes me. You kind of have that feeling, even though no one completes you, you're whole and complete as you are, but you kind of have the sense that it's the other half of your puzzle piece in a good way. Not in the trauma bonded way that we discussed earlier. Okay, you're not linking over your traumas, you're linking over your um power, your wholeness. Okay. And these aren't necessarily the easiest relationships. There will be things you have to work through, but it is probably the most rewarding. I can imagine. I don't know. We'd have to ask someone that's in a relationship like this. Um, but I would think it would be pretty rewarding. And, like I said, most people aren't going to encounter this. They might not be on the planet. You might not be ready for each other. Like just because it's your other half, so to speak, doesn't automatically mean that they're ready for this kind of relationship. And then if that were to happen and you meet each other when it's not time, it's going to seem more like a karmic or soulmate kind of relationship. Um, and just to backtrack a little bit, so a soulmate is more you can think of that as more like a family member on the other side, not so much your other half, so to speak. I don't like using that term, but I don't know how else to use the English language to convey that thought. It's like literally they're another part of you, whereas your soulmate or your soul family are a bunch of friends and family that you really vibe with and you hang with, and oftentimes incarnate with. Um, So again, this type of relationship is fire when both partners are conscious and have done a lot of work on themselves. So when they're ready, both partners are ready for this and they have, become conscious and they have done that deep work. Like this kind of relationship is really, really nice to have. I don't really have any advice on how to find your twin other than confirming that they're on the planet, which you can do with a trusted medium. And from there, it's just manifestation, right? Trusting you'll meet them when the time is right for both of you, like setting that intention. I've done podcasts on manifestation, so you can go back and listen to those if you want to. Um, yeah, I don't have any more to say about that, I suppose. Okay. So if you have any questions about any of these, feel free to put them in the chat or not chat, but the um, comments. I will try to circle back around and answer any questions I get from those. You can always message me on any of the apps. I'll also have all of my information down in or my links down in the show notes, so you can find me there as well. But I just want to close by saying if you find yourself mainly having issues type relationships, the fastest way to move out of that and find a conscious and healthy relationship is to go through that process of awakening to your patterns and transforming them. If you want to do this work quickly and efficiently, finding a coach that you resonate with who does shadow work and is able to recognize energetic patterns as well as help you to safely transform them is going to be your best route. This is the work that I do. So if you'd like to know more about what I do and how I can specifically help you, my links are below and I would love to chat with you. All right, friends, have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next episode.